Good morning, guys. So I'm just out here doing a few random things in the garden this morning. We got hit with a cold front. It's only 63 degrees this morning, which is crazy. I do have some of my fall crops out here starting to harden off a little bit. My cabbage is not looking good. I'm actually going to resow some cabbage today. The cabbage variety I have is supposed to mature roughly in like 65 to 70 days. So I feel like I could still probably get away with starting it today. There's a few that look okay. I have no idea what's going on with this cabbage. But yeah, I figured I would get up this morning, do some random things. I do want to plant out a few things. I have some more pole bean seeds here. I actually pulled a few of my tomato plants yesterday. My tomatoes are starting to get hit with blight. I've been able to manage this middle strip really well, but the ones that were along the fence just have not looked good since pretty much the beginning of the year, and they barely produced anything. I had two plants that had literally one tomato each on them, and they weren't fruiting, they weren't doing anything. So I gave up on those plants. Figured it'd be worth my time to just stop looking at them and stop getting bad. So here's some of my fall stuff I started. You can clearly see how terrible the cabbage is looking. I honestly have no idea what is going on with that. The broccoli looks good. My kale, my collards, have some cilantro here as well. I'll be starting lettuce really soon, and then I'll be direct sowing some more carrots here probably next week. I actually plan to probably plant out some of this broccoli next week, so the Bell Star is a little bit more heat resistant. And the ones I had over in my in-ground space during spring, there was a few I was kind of experimenting with where I just cut it at the base and I left the roots in, and I actually have a few regrowing and they're doing fairly well. But there was this one chart I did find on my extension office that kind of just broke down everything fall wise really easily. And fall's always been kind of tricky for us because we are typically really hot right now. I don't know what is going on with our weather. Like, we have highs in the 80s and our lows are in the 60s for the next week, which is so great because I'm really hoping this little stretch of cooler weather will kind of just help the garden not be so stressed out around this time of year like it typically is. Because once we get into that middle part of August, there's so much in this garden that really starts to die back. Like, I have been hit with a little bit of disease, but overall the garden's been looking so good, and I'm really hoping this little cool stretch will help out. But yeah, we are starting to think full on about fall. There's things in the summer garden coming out. Like I said, I did get rid of some of my tomato plants. I went ahead and left these two here. The blight on them is really bad. The leaf curl on them is really bad. All of the flowers they did for them didn't produce any new fruit, but I still have a little bit that is ripening, so I went ahead and left them for now. But you can see how terrible these plants look compared to these plants. And these ones right here, these two on this corner, are the exact same variety as over there. And it's just so crazy. This middle stretch for me has produced so many tomatoes. Honestly, probably 90%, if not 95% of the tomatoes I have harvested so far have been from this middle stretch. I also have some tomatoes down here, and I actually pulled one of these as well. This one here in the corner was super filled with blight, and these ones actually haven't done too bad. These ones got hit with a little bit of disease, but overall these ones have produced a good amount of tomatoes as well, and overall I've been pretty happy with them. I was honestly pretty curious to see how my tomatoes would do this year because I put them in those 3 separate pockets instead of putting all of my tomatoes kind of in one area like I have in the past, and I've just been really enjoying the ones right here. So I have 3 varieties in this little section. I have regular Roma tomatoes. I have a variety called Supremo. Then I have a new variety that I started this year called Inca Jules. I've grown the Supremo and the Roma in the past, but the Incas have done really good as well, but they have actually been the ones hit with blight the most over here, but they've had really consistent good sized fruits, so I will definitely be growing those again. Here's one of those broccolis that I cut at the base and it's regrowing. Here's another one, and then I actually have a third one over here, and this one is just absolutely crazy. There's so many little sprouts that I actually thought about pulling them all apart and trying to plant all of these out individually too. My front trellis area, I've really wanted it to be symmetrical like this for a few years now, and it's never ended up working out. You can see the zinnias are really pretty. I have the lavender, and both these Goldie honey bears are going to be blooming any minute. Last year, I didn't get these to bloom at the same time, and I really wanted to have this really big statement walking into the garden. So these should be blooming so soon, and I am so excited. But I do have some Goldie honey bears over in the corner that actually have started to bloom. You just can't see it because of all the trellising. I counted how many cantaloupes I currently have on this trellis, and I believe I have 14. I could be slightly off, but we're getting really close to a few of these being ready. I have 4 right here alone. I think this is going to be my first one. You can see the color change on it. The webbing on it is getting a lot thicker and more white. So cantaloupe will actually detach itself when it's ready. So you really don't have to worry about it, except for like the ones like this. If you don't have them in some type of hammock, they could just fall to the ground. But this one's still pretty young. I have some time. Let me show you guys this one. This one is massive. I swear it's like the size of a basketball. It is huge. This might be one of the biggest cantaloupes I've ever grown. Okay, let me show you guys the Goldies. We kind of have to go through a little tunnel. So this is my volunteer sunflower over here, and it has to be sitting about 12 to 13 feet, and it still has not bloomed, but you can see it's kind of a cluster to get in. So let's go under the little area I have cut out, and then we enter Goldie honey bear area. Look how beautiful. These are my all-time favorite sunflowers. They are fluffy and so pretty. They branch out, so you can typically get multiple blooms on each one. Here's another really big, beautiful bloom. They just make me so happy. They are such a staple in this garden. So whenever I am like walking around and pruning different plants, I like to make sure I'm cleaning my pruners between, because if something does have a disease, you want to make sure you're not the one helping spread it. So you can see my pruners, I just cleaned them from doing that, and there's some green to it. So it's my little hack. I just clean it with a little cotton pad and then some alcohol. This is a variety called Elegance, and it actually blooms in its first year. This is one of the few varieties I have found that blooms in its first year. Typically, lavender will bloom in its second year. Wish you guys could smell this through the screen. It smells so good. At this point, I don't know if I'm gonna grow indeterminate tomatoes anymore. So this is probably the 3rd or 4th year I have grown at least some indeterminate tomatoes. I've grown mostly determinate tomatoes. So a determinate tomato is a bush tomato, and an indeterminate is more of a vining tomato. And for me, I have just never had consistent good fruit from an indeterminate tomato. I have tried growing them in multiple locations in the garden, and they have always not done well. So I had 2 San Marzanos here and 2 cherries. I went ahead and pulled those. I pulled the 1 San Marzano a while ago because I have this little melon here that's doing really well. This is my mystery melon. I'm gonna plant green beans over here. I was so tired of looking at these plants, and they were barely producing anything, so I went ahead and pulled them. Honestly, not worth my time when one indeterminate plant was putting on twice as much fruit as any of my indeterminates. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing wrong or what, but please let me know, because I am this close to giving up on indeterminate tomatoes. But I'm gonna plant some more green beans over here. This is just a Blue Lake pole bean. This is the one I could find at the grocery store. I'm gonna plant a few in these bags here. Hopefully that will continue on with the trellis here. I will say my green beans have not been producing as well since we got hit with some heat. But again, I'm hoping this little cooler stretch into August will kind of help. I'd say cooler stretch into August. Last year, August was literally the hottest like few weeks, but we shall see. So over here, I think with one of these, I'm actually going to do this homemade pickle ones. These are more of a compact vine that I could put a tomato cage over here and allow that to vine up the tomato cage. I don't really want that many more cucumbers, but I think it'd be nice just to have maybe like another round going in. So currently, Our last average frost for us is around mid-October. We're sitting at roughly 90, 95 days before our first average. I will say the last handful of years, we have been about a week and a half behind our average. So we'll see exactly how far we get this year. But we're sitting roughly a little under 100 days before our first average frost. So we are definitely in the last little bit of our growing season at this point. I do have some gaps in the garden, like where the onions were, but here in a few weeks, a lot of that is going to be replanted out with some fall stuff. It's just a small little gap that's kind of weird in my growing year. I probably could be a little bit better about planting like maybe one more round of tomatoes, like once the onions come out next year. That's something I could probably be a little bit smarter about, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how I've succession sowed this year and all of that. I got like the world's smallest warped strawberries. I'm just gonna give these to the chickens. I had this cage off for about a week or two because I was having some like bug issues, and I wanted to like pick all of them off, and then during that time a lot of my fruit ended up getting snatched by birds and squirrels. Oh my gosh, I have this one chicken that is just loud. What's your deal? Who wants a berry? I got berry. You want it? So I still have some loofah from last year that I need to use up. One thing I love about loofah is once it's dry, you can just put it away and it will store away. It's not gonna go bad. So I use these for little scrub sponges. I've made so many of these in tutorials over the years, and is one of my favorite things to gift for the holidays. This last year I did not gift as many of them out. That's why I have so many here. I ran out of time last Christmas. So one thing I'm thinking I want to do with them, if it works out, is to make a nest pad for my chickens. The nest pads I typically use are from Eaton Pet and Pasture, and these are a little bit pricey. They're a little loose. You can see how loose they are. So when the chickens get in there, they really mess these up quick. I was looking at the texture of the loofah, and that's what made me think about nest pads, because they almost look like they have a very similar like weave to them. So then I was thinking, I bet I could make my own nest pads out of loofah. And I think these might actually last longer for the fact like the chickens couldn't get their nails in and really just break it apart. Also, these nest pads are a little too big for my nest boxes, and I have rolled down nest boxes, and the eggs don't really roll down because the nest pads are a little too big. So I'm thinking today I'm going to take some loofah here and clean it all up. This is a few of the extra like ones I already have cleaned up. I'm thinking I could layer a few and sew them all together and create a nest pad. I think this would be a really great way to be able to use these outside of just little scrub brushes. I always use these around the house, and if I could use these for my chickens too, I think that would be really cool. So I'm gonna play around today and see if I can make a nest pad out of loofahs. I think I can really accomplish this. Whenever I make my little scrub brushes, I use this little cotton thread here. This is just Aunt Lydia's crochet cotton thread. It's 100% cotton, and that's what I typically use. I use a crochet needle to weave it all together. So typically one loofah for me will create about one little scrub brush. I'm thinking I'm either going to cut a few of these and maybe do like a little patchwork design. So with the loofah, I'm going to make these little fabrics out of them, and then we'll see what I can create. I ran outside real quick so I can measure their nest box, because I don't want to make it too big and I don't want to make it too small. So I should probably know the measurements of this box before I do anything. At least none of you guys are laying right now. I typically come out here midday and someone's always in the box. Oh, we already got 5 eggs. So you can see though, see how this nesting really just forms around and then no eggs go into the area it needs to. So it's roughly 12 by 12. I was thinking the nest pads were 12 by 12, so clearly I'm wrong on that. Oh man, they're like a 14 by 14. So they're just a little too big. The real question is going to be, if I make it and it works, will the chickens actually use it? Because there has been a few times I've tried to switch out from these nest pads and they don't like it. So Let's see if the girls are gonna be bougie or not. I really think these would last so much longer. I started by opening up the loofah on one side and getting the seeds out. Typically, you will get a few hundred seeds from one loofah. So to get the skin off really easily, you can just soak them in water for a minute or two and the skins will slip right off. Getting the loofah wet will also make it more flexible and easier to fold how you want. Now it's time to cut the spine out of the loofah. So taking scissors, cut along one side, making sure not to get too close to the outside because that can cause you to cut a hole into the loofah. You will do this a few times until the whole spine just releases. I also like to just take my scissors and cut along the loofah as well to get any extra off before I clean it one more time. And now I have all of my loofah fabric ready to be sewn. I decided to make 4x4 squares and I needed 9 of them to be able to create a 12x12 for the nest box. Pretty much I'm making the loofah sponges I would make if I were just to use them for like my body or scrubbing around the house, but I will be sewing all of these together to make a nest pad. I cut all the loofah to size, and with the scrap pieces I cut, I actually used those to stuff inside to make each square more padded, and any that I didn't use, I will use these small little pieces around the house to scrub around or clean stuff. You can really use loofah for so much. I then sewed them together using a crochet weaving needle and 100% cotton crochet thread. I have found that this works really well when doing loofah and it stands the test of time. I used 2 arms length of thread and that worked out really great. I don't know the exact measurement on that, but whatever my 2 arms length were, it worked out really well. Once each of them was sewed individually, I then sewed them together, which I did by weaving back and forth. And honestly, this came together really easily. Okay, I'm really excited about this actually. I think the chickens are going to really like this. It's nice and padded, and I think this is going to be really durable. One, I'm gonna be excited if they use it, but if this lasts a long time, game changer. I am so excited. I'm gonna go take this out to the chickens in just a little bit. Also, how cute is like the little patchwork, all the like different tones of loofah. I love it. So before I put the new nest pad in the coop, I need to clean the coop. And I actually have some sand here that I'm going to top their run. So I just use all-purpose like construction sand for their coop. It sifts really easy. I've only added sand twice. These bags are 50 pounds a piece. But I really like the sand. All right, I need to get a box cutter too. I'm just going to use this Coop scoop and sift the sand real quick, and then I'm gonna get this sand laid out in the run. Cut an X in the bag and dump it. And then once I get this last bag, I'm gonna go get my little garden rake and I can just rake it out. I'm sure the girls are gonna be curious and run to it. Last but not least, I'm gonna sprinkle some First Saturday lime just to keep it extra fresh. Let's see how many eggs we ended up getting for the day. All right, looks like we ended up with 5. See how fallen apart these get? And this was only after like 3 weeks. Moment of truth. Does it fit and will the girls use it? Oh, I love it so much. I'm so excited about this. It fits perfectly and it's more flush but yet still puffy where the egg should roll down. And I think this won't be too big of a difference where they will like it. Now we just have to see if they'll actually use it tomorrow. I'm really excited about this. This is so fun. All right, guys, it's the following evening. Let's go see if the girls used the nest pad or not. We did just get a good amount of rain. I need to check the rain gauge, actually. And I don't have to water it tonight, so that's really exciting. Doo-doo. They used it. So it looks like we had 3 girls lay today and all of the eggs rolled down. Honestly, I am so excited that the eggs rolled down in the box and that the girls actually used it. Now, the real question is, will they continue to use it? Because like I said, I really think that these would last a really long time. Typically, I will put a new nest pad in that box and I can tell immediately that they've been in there scratching it up, and I could barely tell that they've been in that box other than there was a few feathers. So that is really exciting. Well, guys, on that note, I will keep you updated on this nest pad situation, but I'm thinking this is going to be a complete game changer. If you're growing loofah and you have chickens, definitely consider it. I really should consider getting a sewing machine because that would have made my life 10 times easier yesterday. I really want a sewing machine, actually. I'm really thinking I want to dive into sewing over winter. I really would love to make some aprons, maybe some dresses, things like that. So really want to get into that. I have sewn in the past, but I would have to start brand new. I learned in high school, and honestly, I couldn't even tell you any of that information, but thank you guys for hanging out with me over the last day or so. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.